I'm going to start by saying welcome, everybody. We are very excited about our first live webinar of 2017.
That's right.
This is cool. We've been putting in a lot of work, and by we, I mean Kimberly has been putting in a lot of work to get ready for this, and I'm really excited about how well this turned out. So, by way of introduction, first a couple of quick housekeeping things. Number one, if you need to contact us or you want to chat or ask questions, there's the little window over there. You can chat, you can note things as either a comment or a question with the little bubble next to it. So if you have a question, go ahead and put that in there. Make sure that we get those because we want to answer your questions live. That's why we do these things live. Second, if you're having any problem with the audio or the video, then the best fix is usually to reload your window in your browser. Whatever browser you're watching this in, just hit the reload feature, and often that'll fix everything. Sunny and 50 degrees in North Texas. Not frigid in Connecticut, but not balmy either. I'm even jealous of Connecticut today. Somebody in Belgium, I wonder how weather is there. Okay, so those are the housekeeping things. Now, to get started by way of introduction, here's the story. So Kimberly's walking around the office a couple weeks back, and she looked really stressed. And that's not normal for her. She usually takes everything in stride pretty well. And so I said, hey, what's going on, Kimberly? Why all the stress? And she says, oh, I've got to give this presentation. I'm in this, this networking group. It's all these professional women. These are really sharp people, and I've got to really knock it out of the park. I've got to give a good one. And, that can be stressful. And I'm going, Kimberly, come on. You present all the time. You're comfortable doing this. But I guess it's an entirely different animal when you've got a stopwatch ticking, you've got a limited amount of time, you've got to present your best self and your best information about your business. And then ultimately, the deal is there's a difference. And Kimberly and I talked about this. And she says, so here's the deal. When I give presentations, when it's over with, people, they shake my hand and they say, hey, that was great. I really enjoyed it. Well, if you have 100 people say that was great, I really enjoyed it, that plus $5 will get you a latte. It doesn't matter how many people like you or like your presentation. What matters is, do you actually get new patients out of it? Does it actually promote your practice and get people to sign up? And so that was the stress Kimberly was feeling. It's a whole new thing. It's not just, I'm going to talk about what I do and everybody's going to say, that was great. She said, I want to get new patients out of this. So I'm gonna cut to the chase just a little bit here. Kimberly, is it true you signed up 14 patient visits out of a 20-minute presentation? Is that correct?
I did. I took your challenge seriously. You said, well, why don't you hit this out of the park and then share with all of our AcuGraph users what you learned from it. So double stress there. I had to present to that. I had to present to my group, and then I had to show my results the next day in a live webinar. So this presentation, you actually presented this yesterday. Mm-hmm.
So yesterday at 7:30 a.m., you were at your networking group. You're presenting this live, and I'm at home going, I wonder how Kimberly's presentation is going. Well, I didn't have to wait long to find out because it was later that morning. You stopped by here on the way to your practice and told us the good news. And I got to tell you, very excited. And I can't wait to see what you did. I can't wait for you to show everyone. So I'm going to get out of the way and you go with it.
All righty. I just want to say that I'm excited to be here. Happy New Year, everyone. I love the new year. I love the opportunity to set goals, decide what's going to be important to me in the year. And when I did this presentation, I knew that it would be the first of multiple presentations that I would need to do through the year. And with that, let me just quickly share my screen and bring up my presentation. One moment.
By the way, while you're doing that, Kimberly, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to put up a poll to find out how many of our users out there, how many people that are attending do live presentations. So putting the poll up here, and just jump in and vote. Let us know about your presenting habits. Back to you, Kimberly.
Okay. So the big question, of course, was why this webinar? And like Dr. Larson was telling you, I, who do presentations all the time, I do these webinars, I teach everywhere. I was nervous about giving my presentation. And what I recognized with acupuncturists is that no matter what field of work you're in, everyone gets stressed when they have to give a presentation. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how, who you are and what you do. Everyone gets stressed. And I get phone calls. I get phone calls from practitioners all the time who tell me, hey, Kimberly, I'm getting ready to do this presentation and you've got a lot of experience. What would you suggest? What should I not do? What should I do? I'm a little nervous. And so I decided that since we get these phone calls on a regular basis, that I would share with you some of the things that I have learned over the years. So what we're going to talk about in this presentation, in this webinar, is why doing a presentation is important. So even if it makes you stressful and nervous, you really have to get over that hump and recognize that it is so powerful in your clinic. And we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about what not to do in a presentation, and then how to be effective in your presentation. And within all that, once we are done talking about all of those things, I'm actually going to show you the presentation that I did in my networking group. I'll show you that at the end.
So you're going to actually give us the presentation. You're going to present to us as if we were your group.
Exactly.
Totally cool. All right.
So this is two presentations within a presentation. So this was me yesterday at 7:30 a.m. Standing in front of my group. This is a tough presentation to do. They typically give you 10 minutes. One person who was also going to present that day called in sick, so I got 20 minutes. And all of you who know me know that I tend to talk too long and too much. So I sometimes have a hard time keeping my message short. So it was tough.
I'd like to say time's up.
Time's up, exactly. And they literally had a timer going, and they would push the timer, and then they would put up a sign and say, you have 2 minutes, you have 5 minutes, you have 2 minutes, and you have to tie it all up. So this was, I wanted to make an impact, and I had a short amount of time, and I needed to do what I needed to do. So in my 20-minute presentation, there were 18 people present. Out of those people that were present, 14 of them signed up to come into my office and do a 30-minute office demo. And then when you ask about what happened to those other 4 people, well, 2 of them were already patients, so they decided they already knew what I did and didn't need to come in for a special demo. And 2 just simply weren't interested, which is totally fine. You got to figure with 18 people in 20 minutes, 14 that came into my office for a demo, that's better than a lot of people do on doing an AcuGraph booth where they're introducing AcuGraph to the public. So I feel like we kind of hit it out of the park, and I'll talk more about that in a moment.
Outstanding. By the way, the poll results are up there. Looks like it's divided about thirds between people who never present, people who do a little bit, and people who do a little more frequently. And then, there's a few who actually do 6 or more times a year. So interesting. It runs the gamut, but a good portion of folks out there, it looks like, never actually do presentations. So back to you, Kimberly.
Okay. So those of you who don't do presentations, I will get people on the phone and they'll say, why should I do presentations? And I just have to say, don't worry. We get dumb questions all the time. This is kind of a joke, but really, it is, after you're done with hearing this webinar, I hope that question is solidly answered for you, because doing presentations absolutely pays off 100-fold, and I'll explain that more as we go on. So really, why should I do a presentation is the question. There is only one good reason why you should do a presentation, and it is to attract new patients, period. I've done a lot of presentations in the last 8 years since I have been in practice, and within that time, I've done a lot of things. I've done, this is a new social network group. Let me just get them all to know who I am and what I'm about. And so I'll spend 10 to 20 minutes talking about me and my family and my kids. That doesn't get me new patients. I've spent time talking about my education and how much time went into my schooling and the difference between me and other acupuncturists and what a licensed acupuncturist versus a certified acupuncturist versus an MD acupuncturist versus a chiropractic acupuncturist. I have spent my whole 20 minutes doing that whole presentation. Okay, so I educated some people, but it did not get me new patients. I am telling you that the only reason to do a presentation is to attract new patients. And if you do it well, that's exactly what you'll do. All of those other things come into play at other times, but I needed to make a mental shift on my presentation. So you need to recognize that if you give 3 presentations a year, then that's a good number. In the most networking groups, by the time you cycle through everyone in the group, it turns out being about 3 times a year. So if you have 3 presentations up your sleeve and ready to go, you could use those 3 presentations your 3 times in the year. You can also be prepared for any group that invites you, or if you need to go and get more patients, that you could just grab one of your presentations and go. So I kind of made that my goal this year, that I would have 3 new presentations that my audience hadn't heard. And I just chose 3 random months. That is my goal. So the 3 that I think are important, especially those of us in this circle, the circle of people that we're talking to here, AcuGraph absolutely has to be one of your presentations. It needs to be powerful. It needs to be good. It needs to be effective. I'm choosing 2 other presentations to have up my sleeve. One is regarding auriculotherapy, and then the other is involving non-needle acupuncture techniques. So that's what I have up my sleeve for 2017. So as I was thinking about pulling this presentation together, I sat there and a light bulb moment went on in my brain. And I was thinking back, and if I do a presentation and I do it well and I talk to people about what I'm doing, I typically get about 8 new patients out of doing a presentation. And my record in my clinic, if I have a new patient, each new patient typically brings in 1 more new patient. So if you take, let's just do a little math on that. If you take 8 people that you get from a presentation who become your patients, and they all bring a new patient into your clinic, and I've taught you how to do that over and over, and that's just how things happen in my clinic. So that's 16 new patients. Let's go further. If you take that 16 number and you do 3 presentations a year, that's 48 new patients. And in my clinic, a new patient is worth about $600. And so I was doing the math on this and realized, wow, if you did this and you did this well and you did it effectively, that's $28,000, almost $29,000 of new income per year just because you're doing presentations. And I was thinking to myself, would life be easier if you had a raise of $28,000 a year? And I was looking at my life and my clinic and thinking, wow, that is a great place to put my efforts for this next year. And then if you actually play with that and realize that you spent an hour at a networking group to make that $28,000, $10,000, almost $10,000 an hour. I think that's pretty good money. So let's go further. Because you own AcuGraph, I'm telling you, you need to own this. You need to own this hugely. You have the advantage over other acupuncturists. You are different. Accept that and know that you are different than all the other acupuncturists in your community. And you have to, if you monopolize on that, it pays off. So let's go on to what you should not do in an acupuncture presentation. And I'm going to tell you things that I have done over the last 8 years, and they haven't paid off. And we'll talk about why they just don't work. So first, I remember that when I first became an acupuncturist, I thought it was my job to explain TCM patterns to my patients and to the world so that they knew that we were different than other doctors. It just doesn't work. They could care less about internal invasions, dry heat, internal liver yang rising. They just don't get it. They scratch their head and you don't get very far. So don't explain TCM patterns in your presentation. Next, I used to pass an orange around, and I would have needles stuck into an orange so I could show them all the different styles and types of needles. I don't care how cool you think your needles are. You will have a group of people and they'll think it's interesting and they'll go, ooh, okay, that's good. But never, ever will that just have people go, oh, I think I'll go see an acupuncturist. I want to have these needles poked in me. It's just not effective when you're giving a presentation. So don't play show and tell with your needles. And then don't do a needle demonstration. I remember one of my very first demonstrations, I had somebody come up and I said, I'm going to show you how I put a needle in someone and how simple it is. And, I put the needle in and the patient, the person up front said, oh yeah, that didn't really hurt. But it didn't bring me any new patients. It really, really didn't. Next, I'm going to show you things that have been effective and what will bring you good results. If you are doing a presentation to a network group, there are different audiences, but let's focus right now on networking groups. I think networking groups are valuable, and you should teach your group how to refer for you. So you will always get some patients. I've been in networking groups for many years, and I have many patients over the years where I picked up a patient here and picked up a patient there. But the most valuable thing that you can do during that presentation is to teach the group how to refer to you. So that needs to be a main goal. The next thing that you need to do in your presentation, even if your presentation is about AcuGraph or you're doing a dietary, whatever presentation you're going to do, you should always mention in the early part that you have non-needle acupuncture techniques in your clinic. That takes away the fear of the average person. There will be the handful of people who would never, ever come to your office just because needles scare them. If you have splashed out that fear, put out that fire by showing that you have non-needle acupuncture techniques, that's hugely valuable, and that will stay in someone's memory. The next thing you need to do is show that you are different. Many of you live in towns where there are lots of acupuncturists around, and or where they lived someplace else and, oh yeah, I heard of an acupuncturist and my friend goes to an acupuncturist. You want to show that you are different. And obviously, this is the AcuGraph user forum that we are presenting this webinar to. So AcuGraph in itself is your tool to show that you're different. You want to leave your presentation having contact information for the whole entire group. So what I do is I have a handout that I give, and this is just a snapshot of a portion of the handout. I do two things. One, I bring a gift for a drawing. A couple of my favorites, I do, my favorite gift for a drawing is a bottle of Zhengu Shui, because it's one of the most popular over-the-counter items that I sell in my clinic. And so I tell them everybody wants to have a bottle of Zhengu Shui on their shelf. I usually have a few extra to sell. And so anyway, they fill out the piece of paper. They're going to give you their name, their phone number, their email address, and they have 3 items that they can check. I'm interested. I tell them that I'm going to be telling them more about my AcuGraph analysis. And then I tell them that I have a drawing for a gift. And then I tell them that I do an email list. When they fill out this piece of paper, I bring a basket with me, and I have this piece of paper attached or sitting around for each person to fill out. So while they're doing the presentation, as they hear about AcuGraph, they can click the box that they want to do a demonstration with me. And then almost everyone is interested in being in the drawing for a gift. So I walk away with contact information for every single person in the group. The next thing is you want to be able to schedule a free AcuGraph analysis. I teach the group that we are all a group of professional business owners. And the reason that we are part of a networking group is so that we can learn about each other's business. And I tell them that in this presentation, I'm going to teach you what I do in my business. And if you come to my office for a free AcuGraph analysis, I'll be able to teach you what I do and learn a little bit more about you. And we will all be more effective at networking. So I schedule a free AcuGraph analysis for everyone in the group. And then a couple other things to think about when you're creating your keynote or your PowerPoint presentation. Keep it simple. Keep it to a few key points. You want to involve emotions, and the emotions, remember I told you earlier, it's not all about, the emotion of why I love what I do. And it's about how you can, something that they can relate to, physical illness that they could relate to, that strikes an emotion, a loved one that they might know, how they can help someone. Then the call to action is to come in for a graph analysis. And then you also want to practice. Once you have your presentation done, you can hit the slideshow and you can just watch that presentation over and over and become really familiar with what you're doing. Nothing worse than having technology and you go up in front of a whole group and it doesn't work well. You want to practice it so it just kind of becomes a part of you. So I highly recommend that. So I did all this yesterday. I presented at my group. I did this huge presentation. And I'm going to actually show you, we're going to come away from this presentation that I'm doing right now, this webinar presentation, and I'm going to bring up the presentation that I did yesterday, and I'm going to show it to you in hopes that it will strike some excitement in you about how you might present if you were going to do a group. Adrian, do you have any questions at this point before I move on to my next keynote?
No, I'm excited. What I am going to do is I'm going to put up a poll because you're about to show us the prepared keynote or PowerPoint that you had prepared and that you were ready with. And so I'm curious, those that go and do presentations, I'm curious how many actually have a prepared presentation, something visual, versus who just stands up and talks. So I'm putting up that poll right now. Let's get people's votes just because I'm wondering. And back to you, Kimberly. Show us what you did.
All right. I'm just reading your poll. When you present, what is your approach? Do you wing it? Do you have a prepared talk with no visual presentation? And do you have a prepared talk with a visual presentation? I have done all three of these. And I definitely, I mean, you need to be able to wing it. There will come a time when if you get there and all of their all of their technical stuff isn't working, you got to be able to wing it and be able to talk about yourself. And that's kind of your elevator conversation. And I used to do my talk. My visual presentation was the needles in the orange. That was how I was doing it. Okay, so I am about to go into my AcuGraph presentation. I am Kimberly Thompson, and I am a licensed acupuncturist here in Meridian, Idaho. And I am here today to share with you a little information about myself. I am a wife. I am a mother. I do acupuncture research. I have 9 children. I have 17 grandchildren, and I have a dog. During my free time, I like to cook and I like to travel. I would love to get to know all of you more on a personal level, but right now we're going to move into my presentation. So a quick housekeeping note, all of you have sitting in front of you, you have a piece of paper and it asks for some key information. I'm going to be doing a drawing at the end of the presentation, and I have a couple of things here on the table today. One is a bottle of Zhengu Shui, and then I also have some ear bling for a stress-related auriculotherapy treatment that we'll be doing for today's drawing. If you'll fill out your name, your phone number, and your email address in order to be in the drawing, if you'll fill that out, and at the end of the presentation, I'm going to pass a basket around. During the presentation, I'm going to talk about something that makes me different in my clinic, and it has to do with a diagnostic evaluation that we do. If you're interested in coming in for a free diagnostic evaluation, please check the box that says you're interested in coming into my clinic. And at the end, afterwards, I will get back in touch with you for setting up that presentation. So let's move on. So I am an acupuncturist and my job is cool. It is really fun being an acupuncturist. No matter who you tell, no matter what party you go to, wherever you go, there are always people who have questions. And I get to do a lot of neat things, but most importantly, I help people to be happy. And that is the coolest part of my job. So when I first tell people about me and what I do, and I first tell them that I'm an acupuncturist, the room is split on a couple of different directions. You have those who just have 100 questions for you and they're excited. And then you have those who kind of back away and they put a big scary face on and they're like, ooh, you do acupuncture? Isn't that scary? Oh, you put needles in people? So I thought that I would talk to you about maybe what you might have thought acupuncture is. And I've got a little video here that I want to show.
Something about the sound of harps that makes me nervous. Oh my God.
I don't know.
Hey, relaxation lesson number 1, acupuncture. It's great for your back and your rear. Needles in your face, pleasure in your base.
Okay, so what you need to know about this video is that it's a myth, that we don't do anything like that in our clinic. You can find lots of fun YouTube videos about what people would like to describe acupuncturist, the life of an acupuncturist, but this is not true. And I have another one to show.
Just relax.
Okay. This is the most stressed out I've ever been in my life.
Good. Listen, I'm going to talk to you about things you like to take your mind off the needles, okay? Accounting, trigonometry, stamps probably.
More of a rare coins guy. Help me. Help me.
Okay, so obviously that is another myth. That just cracks me up. He's more stressed out than he's ever been in his life getting acupuncture needles, and he would need to relax by talking about accounting and trigonometry. Absolutely, this is not what happens in our clinic. Another myth, this is the next thing that people begin to think when they think acupuncture. Take a look at that great, big, huge needle. You need to know that we do not use needles like this in our clinic. In fact, if you go to a doctor's office, you might get a needle like this in your arm or in your glutes, but this is not the type of needle you will get in our clinic. And then, let's see. Is it showing? Are you seeing my screen now? Adrian, can you chime in real quick?
Well, I still see the end of the video. Okay, now it's switched over to the needle with the word myth across it. So okay. I think it's frozen for a minute there.
Okay. So let's see. Let me get back on my Kimberly Meridian family acupuncture thoughts here. So the good news is in our clinic, there are many ways that you can treat acupuncture points and bring balance in the body that have nothing to do with needles. And if you, since you are my group that I'm teaching about who I am and what I do, and you'll be telling other people, you'll really want to pay attention to this next slide. There are many, many non-needle techniques, and I happen to be a specialist in non-needle acupuncture. In our clinic, we use microcurrent, we use vibrational therapy, we use laser, we use acupressure. There are a ton of resources that we have that do not involve needles. So I want you to feel very comfortable if you are referring people into my clinic and you use the word acupuncture and people go, oh, acupuncture needles. I want you to be able to quickly speak up and tell them, oh, you're good. She has all kinds of extra techniques. In fact, we treat children and babies in our clinic and teenagers with anxiety. And so we have so many resources that are non-needle. So another thing that you need to recognize about acupuncture is that acupuncture is safe. You'll get people who say, oh, is that safe? And that's a real question. And you need to recognize that acupuncture has been around for 4,000 years. It's way safer than drugs and surgery. And I remember when I was a teenager and I was going to have my wisdom teeth pulled, and I was sitting with my mother, and I look over at her and she's just crying as she is filling out the paperwork. And I said, what is wrong? And she says, it says on this paper that you might die in your procedure. Well, I just need you to know acupuncture is safe, and we do not have signed consent forms that say you might die. It is, there are only good side effects with acupuncture. So the next thing to recognize is that acupuncture is effective. And it's funny, that's another question. Does acupuncture really work? Do you really get results? Yes, that is why there are acupuncturists all around the world. That is why it's been around for 4,000 years. That's why there's a waiting list at my clinic for new patients to get in. It is effective, it works, and that's why people keep coming back. So the next thing that you need to recognize about acupuncture is that it's relaxing. I can't even tell you how many patients, when they come in and they've had their first acupuncture experience, that is the thing that they are surprised about in the end, is that acupuncture is relaxing. Most people, when they have needles in them or when they're having any of the other techniques, when their body's in balance, they just lay back under a warm heat lamp and they are falling asleep. Looks like maybe my presentation is slower than my voice here. Do we now have the acupuncture is relaxing slide?
There it goes. Yeah, it just switched.
I'm not sure how to fix this because we're doing a presentation within a presentation.
Well, I'll keep you posted if it's not showing what you're talking about. Go ahead.
All right. So the next truth that you should recognize about acupuncture is that acupuncture is modern. And this is what makes me different than a lot of other acupuncturists. We'll be talking about, I use AcuGraph in my clinic, and we do a diagnostic exam that takes just a couple of minutes. And with a computerized diagnostic, we can see exactly what is wrong with the patient so that we can fix it and make our treatment more effective. So before, we're going to talk about AcuGraph in a moment, but before we do that, I'm going to tell you about a patient of mine. We're going to call her Mary. Mary is very typical of many of the patients, most of the patients who come through my door. The day that they walk in, they are tired. They are frustrated. They are tired of not feeling well. Mary is typical. When I do a first intake on someone, they're sad, they're angry, they're frustrated. They are not, they've tried many other things. Let's move on. They aren't enjoying the simple pleasures of life. They're not functional. They aren't sleeping well. They're grumpy. They're irritable. They have symptoms that are turning them, their life just isn't happy. So this is Mary. Mary tells me things like, I had symptoms. I went and saw my doctor. They gave me drugs. And because of the drugs, I have even more symptoms than what I had before. Now I have insomnia. Now I have a dry mouth. Now I have aches and pains. Common response to doctors when you come in with a big list of problems is, here, I don't know what's wrong with you. Let's give you a Prozac. I'm being a little facetious here, but that's what's happened with a lot of my patients. They're coming in and they are living on Prozac. So my question to you is, do you know anyone who lives these types of symptoms in their life and they've progressed to a point where they are frustrated and they are not feeling well and they just don't know which way to turn? I love watching, I crack up when I'm watching the commercials on TV when they're presenting drugs and all of the symptoms that can go with it. You might as well say, see your doctor immediately. If your arm falls off, you lose your vision, or your face becomes deformed. I mean, we just live in a world full of drugs, and this is the point that most of my patients come into the office. Mary didn't know where to turn, and she is frustrated. So the good thing that Mary did was she confided in a friend, and lucky enough, Mary, most of my patients who are like Mary, when they come through my door, the reason that they come through the door is because they met someone who has been to me. When Mary confided in her friend said, oh, honey, I know where you were. I know where you are because I was there a year ago. And that friend can share that acupuncture changed their life. You, as part of my team of networkers, because that's what we do here in our social networking group, it's our job to know each other's business. It's our job to understand the type of work that we do in our practices so that we can refer patients. Do you know someone who has the type of symptoms like Mary, somebody who's frustrated, somebody who isn't able to do the work that they really want to do in their life and isn't enjoying life the way they want to, you can refer them. One referral changed Mary's life. And now when she comes, her symptoms were resolved. I want you to recognize that on your table, on your piece of paper that we gave that has your name, your phone number, and your email address, you have 3 business cards attached to that. And I hope that you'll take those business cards, and when you meet someone who is complaining about life the way Mary has, that you'll hand them my card and tell them that they should come and visit with me. Let me show you what happens when someone like Mary comes into the office. They sit down with me and they tell me all of their symptoms. And oftentimes that patient will sit there with tears in their eyes when I show them an AcuGraph analysis and I show them how I understand how all of their symptoms come together. Within a first few visits of a patient who comes in with this huge array of symptoms, the patients disappear. It is very common for patients to come in after their first visit and say, wow, not only did my main complaints change, my moods changed, my energy level changed. Other aches and pains that I didn't even realize that I was experiencing all the time, those changed as well. That is very, very common in the world of acupuncture. So again, what makes me different than other acupuncturists is AcuGraph. We are able to measure acupuncture points on the patient, show them on a computer screen where their imbalances are, and watch their progress. So here's an example of 3 graphs for a patient like Mary. Notice the first graph, she's green is the goal here. Green means that the patient is in balance. And when there's too much energy in a channel or too little energy in the channel, the acupuncture channels come up as red or blue. As we treat, notice treatment number 2, Mary's life is changing. You can tell by looking at the graph. And then by the time we got to treatment 3, a lot of her problems had resolved. And that is very typical of what we see in our office. At this point in time, if you have time in your presentation, and I highly recommend doing this, this is where you want to do a demo. Who wants to try? So if you can bring someone up and do a quick graph analysis, and then you can click on channels and you can show them where shoulder pain and the things that are going on. But if you can't do this in your demonstration, this is what you want to do next. Who wants a free graph analysis? This is the time when you take that piece of paper and you check the box that says, I am interested in having a free 30-minute graph analysis. The reason everyone in this networking group will want to come in, if you have symptoms, we will look at the graph and we'll talk about what I see in your body and how I look at your body from a different perspective. If you don't have symptoms, that's awesome too, because then you can know that you are on track and you are living your life well, but you'll still have a general idea of what I do in my clinic and how I do it. And when you come into the office, we'll get to know each other better. You'll understand how to refer to me and I'll understand how to refer to you. So again, it's free. Check the box if you're interested. And I'm going to pass a basket around so that you can turn those in, and we'll pass that around, and then I'll get back with you in the next day if you have said that you are interested. And so now, at this point in time, if you have any questions for me, now is the time. So I'm going to stop sharing here. That is the end of my presentation. I obviously do better on a presentation when I have the crowd right in front of me, and if I don't have the hesitation of slides moving back and forth.
It's nerve-wracking to sit and present to a computer with no humans in front of you, isn't it?
Exactly. But the presentation itself was, it was really, really effective. And like we were talking earlier, I actually, out of 18 people in the room, 14 people checked the box and said, oh, absolutely, I want to come into your clinic and I want to do the 30-minute. So my schedule is packed. I went home that day and I made phone calls, and they were already expecting the phone call. I wasn't trying to cold contact or anything, and they already told me yes. I also, on that presentation paper, it also told me if they were interested in being on my mailing list so that they could know about specials or things that I do. And the majority of them are all on the mailing list now as well. So I added all of those in.
Cool.
So I only have one to report. Out of all of that, I was able to do one of those 30-minute presentations yesterday. So I did the morning presentation. We came over here. I shot some video here that we're going to show you in a moment. And then I treated patients, and I had one slot at the end of the day open where I could do a 30-minute graph analysis for one of the people in the group. So my report on that is she came. She said, I just loved your presentation. I can't wait to learn more. She did her 30-minute graph analysis. I printed it for her. I gave it to her. I found out a little bit more about what she does. And the results of the one 30-minute time slot in my clinic is that she booked her first initial evaluation, and she said that she is willing to commit to a series of 6 visits. So there you go. That's where the $600 comes in.
Wow.
Initial evaluation and 6 visits, and that's what's typical for a new patient.
So if this was the only thing that happened from you going and standing up and giving this presentation, if the only thing you got was the one new patient, then you've already made. I
guess I made $600.
Yeah, it's just, and that's only, out of 14 people who have agreed they want to come in. That's really mind-boggling, Kimberly, at how effective this can be at practice building.
Okay, so I just have a little bit more to present back to my original presentation. So let me jump back to that real quick.
Okay.
My application window. And we just talked about the results. How I felt and what I learned on this. I absolutely learned that how I did my presentations in the past was not successful because I didn't have a measuring device. If you can get the people in that group to come in for the 30 minutes, then you get the one-on-one, then you get the touchy-feely, then you build the relationship, then you build a networker who really becomes a networker for life. And that should be the goal of a presentation. So you like this slide. Isn't this fun? It's your turn. I went to our AcuGraph user group and I just picked some random pictures of practitioners who are part of our AcuGraph user group. You all need to be going out and doing presentations. You need to, I want to hear about your presentations. I want to hear what you learned from this webinar and how your presentations can be more effective. And what I learned is that creating a lot of hard work.
Sorry, you cut out because you were switching. You said creating a presentation can be a lot of hard work?
Can be a lot of hard work. I am lucky enough that I had a team to help me, and we have a new employee here, and she is a specialist in marketing and graphics design. Notice my presentation that I did today for the webinar versus the one that I did for my clinic. She helped put that together, and together, her and I spent about 30 hours trying to come up with the webinar that I would, or the presentation that I would share with you. And let's see, we have 2 more things we're supposed to do, right, Adrian?
Yeah, so, well, here's the deal. Just briefly, so to build on what you just said, Kimberly, the point is you started from cold and said, okay, I've got to give a 10-minute presentation. What am I going to say? How am I going to do it? You got your ideas together. You got your outline. You started building a presentation. Then we had a professional designer who does a great job, and I can say that. I'm very proud. She's actually my oldest daughter who graduated in December from college with her degree in advertising, and she started working here. And this is the first major project she did, is she took your presentation, which I love you, Kimberly, but it looked like crap. Okay. And she took your presentation and she made it into that beautiful presentation you just gave with all the pictures and the people, and it looked very professional and nice. Anyway, once we got that done, we said, golly, how many of our users would love to have that pre-made as a template where all they have to do is put in their picture and their practice name and they're ready to go present? 30 hours of work to build something that looks that good and is that effective versus being able to just grab it, spend a half hour customizing it, and you're golden. So what we decided to do, we put that together and we're making it available to all of you as AcuGraph users at an insanely affordable price. We've got it set up as in Keynote format and in PowerPoint format, both widescreen and letterbox, and we have the handout and the instructions for how to do it. We got the whole package put together, and you can have it for 29 bucks. For those that are interested and think they might want that presentation ready-made, I've just put that up on your screens. You can actually grab that right now. This is kind of an introductory price. We're doing it really cheap. I figure if you guys spent 30 hours between the 2 of you building it, or someone could buy this for 30 bucks, that's $1 an hour. What's your time worth? So,
well, and isn't it about 30 slides long too? So yeah. $1 a slide, right?
Yeah, it's 29 slides in there. So yeah, it's like $1 a slide, pre-made, ready to go. This is an introductory special at the webinar. This won't be the price that you see when this thing goes live on our website. We're planning, actually, it'll be worth quite a bit more. But as people who attend the webinar, we wanted you guys to have first crack at this stuff. So if you think you're interested, you can hit the button. You can pick this up, download it right now, and own it. And Kimberly, it is back to you.
Okay, so the only thing we have left, and I'm not sure our timing works, maybe we've got the video of when I am doing the presentation, how I talk to the person. Do we want to do that now, or do we want to have that as a link that they could watch later?
Well, so yeah, let's throw that out. First of all, there's a couple of questions. Dana says, is this the same slides or different ones? These are the slides that Kimberly just used with all of the, well, in fact, why don't you just really quick screen share a couple of slides out of that, just so people get an idea what they're talking about.
And I'll give you an idea.
While she's doing that, folks, we have a 10-minute video we've prepared of Kimberly doing a graphing demo. So actually graphing somebody and talking about it the way she does with the patient. It's 10 minutes long, and we can play that right now if you'd like to stick around for it. Just give us a comment really quick. Let us know. If you have time and want to see that, we'll put that up next. Kimberly, this is the presentation then that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, so this is the presentation. You would change out the picture, you would change out the name, you would change out the clinic name. And she's made it without my picture in it. She's told you exactly where to drop in pictures.
So it's really a template.
It is. And for some reason, my screen is going black.
Oh, that's weird. It is. It's not that one. Huh. Nope.
All right. I'm going to stop sharing for now.
Okay. Something happened there with showing the screen. But so and they just drop their pictures in, and none of the images are copyrighted. It's all copyright free, so you can take this, own it, use it. It's yours to do with as you please. There's no limit to the number of times you can use this. You can go present it a dozen times out there. hopefully that answers some of the questions. We have some folks saying, yeah, I would love to see the AcuGraph demo. So at the risk of going a few minutes over our allotted time, I'm going to go ahead and put that video up. Is that all right, Kimberly, with you?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to run that, and then as soon as this video is over in 10 minutes, we will close things up. Meanwhile, we'll leave that offer up. You can pick up that presentation if you want to have that. So here comes the video now.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm great. Okay, welcome. I'm going to do a quick graph analysis like we talked about earlier, and I'm going to measure some acupuncture points on your body,
Perfect.
both on your hands and on your feet. And when I am done, then I'm going to be able to show you on the computer screen different things that are going on in your body. It'll be actually kind of fun.
Perfect.
All right, so I'm going to have you hold this in your right hand, just like so. And I'm going to take your hand like this.
Left, pericardium 7. Left,
There
heart
are
7.
12 main acupuncture channels that run through the body.
Left, small intestine 4.
And through modern science, we're actually able to measure the
Left, triple
bioelectricity,
energizer
if you will.
4.
We're able to measure these acupuncture points and show on a computer screen
Left,
where there's
large
too much
intestine
energy
4.
or not enough energy flowing through the body, which then
Right, lung 9.
shows symptoms.
And so does it compare like the left and the right sides of the body?
It does.
Right, pericardium 7.
Yep. And
Right,
perfect.
heart 7. Right, small intestine 4. Right, triple energizer 4.
Your hands are nice
Right,
and
large
relaxed.
intestine 4.
Well, it's nice that there's no needles.
No needles.
Left,
Exactly.
spleen
I'm going to have you
3.
put this foot right up here in my lap.
Left, liver 3.
Is it hard for you to find the points when you're doing this?
My
Left,
goodness, there
kidney
are
3.
hundreds and hundreds of points all over the body. I do this exam on many people day by
Left,
day.
bladder
and these
64.
are typical points, and you just get pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Fingers that know.
Left, gallbladder 40.
Sometimes
Left,
when I'm finding
stomach
people go,
42.
Oh, that point's tender.
Mm-hmm.
And acupuncture points typically are
Right,
a little
spleen
bit tender.
3.
All right.
Right, liver 3.
Each of the organs are named after
Right, kidney 3.
after organ systems in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So we're measuring the kidney from your foot.
Right, bladder 64.
But the kidney channel runs all throughout the body.
It does. It runs. Each one
Right,
has a specific
gallbladder
pathway,
40.
which I'll be showing you in a moment. Like who would have thought gallbladder on the ankle?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, stomach 42.
All right.
Exam complete.
Okay. Once we measure all of the acupuncture channels, then we can look at a computer screen. So we measured every channel in your body and we came up with an average. So many points above average shows that there's too much energy in the channel. So many points below shows that there's a deficiency. Too much energy just means that things aren't quite flowing the way they need to. So energy is stuck in one channel, deficient in another. So the red ones are high. And blue means low. A couple of these are borderline high, and I'm going to actually make a change right here and change this to high because it'll give me a better analysis of what's going on. Notice how it's right up by the red line, and so it's quite up there. And even this channel here is
Probably better to
pretty
treat
high.
it than leave it untreated.
Exactly. And it helps give us a better picture of what's going on. So as we look at these channels, we've got some that are low and some that are high. This is the large intestine channel. And this will be a great analysis for you to see how I'm thinking about your body in Chinese medicine. So the large intestine channel pathway, notice it comes right up your arm and comes across your face. All along that pathway, it affects the tendons, the muscles, the ligaments, the blood flow, the nervous system, everything that follows that pathway. Now watch. Now we can look at muscularly. So that acupuncture channel affects this area of the body muscularly and across the head. So there's a deficiency in this channel. Then beyond the muscles, we're also looking at the internal pathways.
Okay.
So this has like secret internal pathways that go inside your body. And internally, this acupuncture channel affects the lungs, the large intestines, and a lot of the digestion system. So you can see if this channel is low, it could be muscles along that pathway that aren't quite working the way they need to. It could be, but it also could be internal. I'm going to show you this channel here. This is called the bladder channel, and we'll go back to the pathway. So the bladder channel runs along the back. And in this picture, you're just seeing one side, but it runs along the back on both sides. And so we're showing excess in your bladder channel, and it's more excess on the right than the left. So then I could ask you questions. Have you been having some back pain, some muscle tension? And so you can see how it affects right here at the eye. It comes across the head. It comes all the way down and down the leg. And then muscularly, it affects all of these areas on your body and even on your face. Then internally, this is where it gets interesting. Internally, it comes inside and it affects the kidney, the bladder, the brain, the eye. So as I'm looking at your body, I'm looking at it on a multi-dimensional, faceted way. And it's kind of my job to be the engineer and understand if there's a problem in this channel, why is she having symptoms in these other channels?
Exactly.
I'm going to click here for a second, and I'm going to show you the energy cycle. And so this is interesting. This shows and energy has a natural flow in which it travels through the body. So if you were going to start with that first channel, and let's just say we're going to start with the lung channel has to come up, and then it has to come through this middle part of your body, and then it comes all the way down, it connects with another channel, which then has to come up and then go through the middle and then come down the arms. And so there's this back and forth flow. This particular way that I'm showing you the graph shows that if we started at the beginning, this would be the first channel, and it would go all the way through to the last channel, and then this channel would feed back into here again. Okay. So as you're looking, notice that this one is a little higher, and then this one is low. And more specifically, this one is high. This is the spleen channel, which has a lot to do with digestion, how we take in our food. Oftentimes when people have excess in the spleen channel, they have symptoms such as bloating, gas, indigestion. They're just not feeling well digestive-wise. Well, when this channel is excess, then this next channel on your graph isn't quite getting what it needs. Really? So the heart channel is deficient. If you were, we're just doing a consultation right now, showing the graph, but questions that I would ask you, like, do you have a tendency towards anxiety? How's sleep been? Do you have insomnia, trouble sleeping? Each of these pathways have to do with different symptoms.
So even more mental symptoms besides physical things that you might be experiencing. Exactly.
And today, when you leave here, I'm actually going to print you a report. And in that report, we give an analysis. So we show that your heart channel is deficient. Oftentimes patients will ask, well, does that mean my heart, am I having heart issues? I'm young. What do you mean my heart is deficient? It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the pathway, and it has to do with the function of the heart in terms of Chinese medicine. And of course, it can have actual issues with the heart itself, but it doesn't mean you have those symptoms. So based on your graph, in your report, it's going to show the types of symptoms that you could have in relation to your imbalances. So, palpitations, sleep issues, insomnia, things like that. It'll be interesting for you to look at this report and look at the channels that you have imbalanced, and it'll help you to recognize how I am looking at your body from a different perspective than other practitioners.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that.
So this is, the other thing that's interesting to me is these channels here are your upper body, and these channels here are your lower body. When I am looking at your graph, I can look at it from a ratio perspective. See this red X right here? It should be more centered on this picture. So there's a lot more going on in your lower body channels than your upper body channels. And, you know, on spleen is high, liver is high, bladder is high. Oftentimes when it's a female patient and I'm looking at this, it can be menstrual cramps, menstrual issues, so things like that. So my job is to find where those imbalances are, fix the imbalances, and then your body is beautiful. Your body knows what to do when it's in balance. Then it knows how to heal itself. That's why we can stop menstrual pain and headaches and digestive issues and anxiety and PMS and sadness. I mean, whatever the issue, that's how acupuncture becomes holistic all in itself.
That's so interesting.
Okay, I'll print you the report and we'll take it from there.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, I hope everybody found that demo useful. And while that video was up, Kimberly got her screen fixed. So there were some questions about what the slides are that are included in the presentation that she's making available. So Kimberly, you want to pop those up really quick? Just flip through a couple of them for us. So there we go. I'm an acupuncturist and my job is cool. It's this presentation. It's the one that she gave at the networking meeting that's got the beautiful design to it, all of the graphics, everything pre-made and ready for you. So this is what she's talking about. And as Shireen posted in the comments over there, comes with the instructions for how to use it, how to modify it, how to customize it for your own. So
you can change your picture, the name on it, the business name. And I treat a lot of chronic pain conditions and I treat a lot of women, but you could change that up you could just change the picture out if it's more sports injuries or pediatrics. It's all changeable.
Yeah, and it's a great place to start. So even if you need to modify it, you might modify the whole thing in a half hour instead of spending hours building the thing. So we need to close. Thank you, everybody. Does anyone else have questions? I see that Levin asked a question about the lung channel during the demo.
That's just a matter of preference on when it wasn't important to make a change regarding the discussion I was having with her.
Christina asked a question. This is good. She says, where do you get your contacts to find out where to present? And now this was a networking group that you're part of, Kimberly, right? And there's always networking groups in every city. There's bunches of them. But then there's other opportunities too.
So this presentation was definitely geared towards a networking presentation because I wanted to teach them how to be my my sales team, my advertisers. We actually have in the AcuGraph, we have lots of blogs regarding on how to find places to present. I mean, health fairs, that's using your AcuGraph to do a whole event and graph people all day long and do the mini graph.
It's easy to present also when you find conditions that you want to treat or conditions that you like in your practice. There are often support groups for people that have various conditions. And there's webinars we've taught on that, how you can look up these various support groups, explain that you treat this condition, you'd like to come give a presentation, they will welcome you with open arms. There's also communities built around certain patient populations, like over 55 active lifestyle communities. excellent places. They'll have a community center. They will sponsor your presentation. So there's a lot of ways to do this. And we've got, like you said, some other webinars, some blog posts on ways to get places to present. So
yeah, and you could take this webinar and you can fine tune it to whatever your audience is. So it's very easily done. Shireen did an amazing job. I learned so much from her, and she made me look like I was awesome. So that's our goal, is to help you to take half this, 3/4 of your stress away. If you've already got a presentation and you just have to put it together, let those presentations bring you new patients. And that's really the goal right there.
Absolutely. And don't forget to tell us about your success. We get people in the AcuGraph user group on Facebook that pop in and say, hey, I just, I did a health fair over the weekend. I got 12 new patients. We love hearing that, and the other practitioners love it. So thank you so much, everybody, for attending today.
Quick question. Now, you offered a special through the webinar, but that is not going to be the normal price on the website, correct?
This is the introductory special. Yeah, it will be going up soon. So we'll, I would advise getting it earlier if you think you're interested. Or if you just want to use the example and go build your own, then have at it as well. Either way, we just want to be a resource for you and help. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We
Bye-bye.
will see you next month.